Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. Today we're going to talk about which coin could be number one after, let's say, 7, 8 years. Right now, it's Bitcoin. And we're not really going to talk about the chances of Bitcoin being number one after 7 or 8 years. That could obviously happen, right? That could definitely happen because things could just stay kind of the way they are and Bitcoin can just keep gaining prominence. But we're going to see, like, after 7 or 8 years, after the market matures a little bit, which coin could possibly be number one? So I think the best candidates are Ethereum, Cardano, and Tezos. And now, I mean, they're all mainnet coins, and I actually do think one of the mainnet coins is definitely going to be number one after like 7 or 8 years after the market matures. And I'll tell you a reason for that. Now, out of those three, I think Ethereum definitely has a big lead. Cardano would be second, and Tezos is a distant third. I know there are other coins like Tron and EOS. I've never really believed in EOS, and their PR marketing has been pretty terrible. Tron, I think, will do well, but I don't think you can take over number one with just a bunch of gambling apps. And I know Justin Sun's trying to do DeFi on Tron, but one, he's Justin Sun, and two, I just don't see that many big apps getting on Tron. I do think Tron will actually be kind of a go-to for a lot of entertainment stuff. I'm sure you'll get a pretty good ROI from it in the future, but I just don't think it can be number one. Now, what about other coins? What about XRP? Well, XRP I believe will do actually pretty well in terms of ROI, but I highly doubt it's going to take over all money flow in the future for banking and stuff. So I do think it will take over a lot of the percentage of remittance flows to poorer countries and the developing world. And based on that, it should give you a very good ROI. Possibly, it's I think like 32 cents right now. Possibly could get to, 20, $30. So that's still a very good ROI over, 10 years or so. But even at that market cap of $32, which would make it roughly 3.2 trillion with all its supply, it's not going to be number one because I think crypto overall is going to develop, and there's going to be coins, or at least a few coins, that are over that market cap. So it won't be number one either. What about things like VeChain? People are saying, oh, but it's like an $8 trillion or like $50 trillion global supply chain industry. I think if you're looking at that number, you're kind of looking at it wrong because A, it's VeChain's not going to take over 100% of the global supply chain industry. B, that is the entire supply chain industry. That's just not the blockchain part of it. I mean, there's the trucks, the planes, the actual materials that are moving. That's like the entire industry's worth. And blockchain's only going to be a part of that. And plus, like I said, VeChain's not going to take 100% of that. And yes, I know there's going to be some DeFi on VeChain, but if you really look at where all the DeFi apps are, I don't think VeChain is going to be like the thing for DeFi right now. I do think VeChain will do very well. It might actually have the highest ROI of almost all those coins, but I don't think it will be number one. ICX is kind of limited to Korea, at least for right now. There are like a few partnerships outside of Korea, but it's kind of limited to Korea for right now. And like I said, even if it expands outside of its home country, it's not going to take over 100% of the world. IOTA is very interesting, but I have my doubts about IOTA. And no, it's not because of the internal turmoil of a former co-founder with the current co-founder. That actually has nothing to do with it. It's like the Jin project that has really far-reaching and really ambitious goals, but I'm doubtful that you can actually get the world to switch from binary to trinary, or even if that will actually work. And like a lot of the fanboys will say like, oh, it's going to become the global standard. Anytime I hear that, when there's a lot of other big players in the field of IoT and stuff, kind of like an eye roll moment. Like, yes, your coin might do very well, but it's not going to be the sole player in the market, and not everyone is going to use it. I mean, for IoT cities, I understand that IOTA has, Austin and a few other cities, but likewise, VeChain has a lot of the cities and some of the cities in China. ICX has some of the cities in Korea. So it's going to be split. And a lot of the IOTA stuff is kind of like yet to be seen, like self-driving cars, 5G technology and all that stuff. That has really yet to be developed, so we don't really know how that's going to work out. IOTA, I think, will do very well in the future indeed, but probably number one. So you got Tezos, Ethereum, and Cardano. So Tezos is like a distant third right now. Yes, it's been climbing a lot lately, but I actually haven't. I think a lot of that climb has been due to hype. I've actually not seen too many things deployed on Tezos. I think there is like the French police force or something that was working with them or something like that. And there's also been like an STO deal signed with one of the Brazilian investment banks, but both Cardano and Ethereum have actually had more stuff than that come out on their chain. Now, I think Ethereum is a clear front runner because if you look at DeFi Pulse, and I think DeFi is going to be very huge in the future, pretty much every single large DeFi project outside of Lightning Network, which is obviously Bitcoin, is actually on Ethereum. Like in the top 22, there are 21 Ethereum and 1 Bitcoin, and Maker is by far the most dominant by far DeFi project, and I don't think Charles' stablecoin is really going to overtake MakerDAO anytime soon. MakerDAO itself is probably like half the size of Cardano, and I can only see it going up. People trust Ethereum, and the thing is, despite the 1.0 to 2.0 thing, which actually might get some people nervous, you have to look at like a lot of the banks are issuing bonds on Ethereum. Countries are issuing their bonds on Ethereum to tokenize them, and if you really look at J.P. Morgan recently, they're looking at combining with Synthetex. Not Synthetex, they're combining with Consensus, which is an Ethereum development. So they might actually port Corium and have that connect to the Ethereum blockchain. Plus, if you look at the other big projects like Chainlink, QNT, they're all on Ethereum. So any of those projects going up will lift Ethereum up with it. And there's so many projects being built on Ethereum that I just think it's going to be very hard to overtake. Cardano would be number 2, but it is a pretty distant second. Yes, if Shelly and Gogwan come out and everything, it will have the features. It will actually have all the features, but there's still not nearly as much adoption. They have MOUs, but that is still reliant on Shelly and Gogwan coming out. And since they haven't come out yet, it is still kind of theoretical, honestly. And we've known that Cardano has a lot of delays, so it wouldn't be surprising for me if they actually delay it again, which I don't think they should. Ethereum, on the other hand, actually has a working product. Yes, 2.0 has been delayed, but they actually have a mainnet out that people are actually building on. So it's actually a little different from a project that doesn't have the mainnet, that doesn't have a decentralized mainnet that people are actually building on. Despite the delays in 2.0, Ethereum is actually still expanding on a production basis, and there are many banks on like a private version of Ethereum on Corium, and IIN has expanded to over 300 banks worldwide. So if you really look at that compared to Cardano right now, which is yet to deploy a decentralized system, although it may be better than Ethereum with the staking pools, and they're working on it to make it better than Ethereum, it's got a long way to catch up, and it's not going to be easy to convince a lot of these projects to come over to Cardano from Ethereum, especially with the plethora of layer 2 solutions that are actually available for scaling Ethereum. Now, the MOUs for Cardano with like Africa specifically are very interesting. I think Davos was a big score for Cardano and the team, getting the letters of intent, the MOUs and everything. But despite that, it still lags very, very very hard behind Ethereum right now. So I think like even though Tezos, Cardano, Ethereum are the most likely, or are the 3 most likely actually to be number 1 at the end of 7 or 8 years after development, I still think like Ethereum is by far the favorite. And I don't really think anything else besides one of these mainnet coins will actually be number 1 to overtake Bitcoin, because I think one of these will be the first one to overtake Bitcoin, most likely Ethereum, and they'll probably keep that position once they gain that dominance and everyone really builds on them. And since everyone is already building on Ethereum, and there are actually quite a few large projects on Ethereum, for instance, Chainlink is almost as big as Cardano itself. I don't really see Ethereum giving up that position anytime soon, as most other small projects that are launching ICOs are launching on Ethereum. Same thing with these DeFi projects and STOs. So that's why I think, Ethereum, Cardano, and Tezos, those kind of coins are most likely going to be the ones that first flip Bitcoin. And out of those, Ethereum has a huge lead. So my guess is probably Ethereum in the next 7 or 8 years. And then, there'll be, after Ethereum, there'll be other coins that overtake Bitcoin. It might take a little bit of time, but I don't think Ethereum's going to give up number 1. And Cardano might be like, Cardano will probably be in the top 5. If like it keeps its promises, it'll probably be in the top 5. And some of those others like VeChain, XRP, they'll probably be like in the top 5, top 10 as well. But these mainnets, especially Ethereum, I think are going to dominate the future. And that's why I'm very, very bullish on Ethereum because of all the, look at all these projects on it, like Maker, Compound, Synthetix, Instadap, Uniswap, DYDX, BZX, Bancor, AV, WTC. Nothing else even comes close to this right now. Yes, if you look at Tron, there is a lot of decentralized applications on it, but most of those are gambling apps, and I really don't think gambling apps are going to be like number one or anything in the future. So that's my reasoning of what I think is going to be number one in 7 or 8 years. That's why I think it has to be one of the main nets, and that's why despite Cardano and Tezos making progress, I do think Ethereum stands at the top. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.